a very special thanks goes out to EY, who are the sponsors for this evening. And we have a great champion standing at the back of the hall there, Michelle, from EY, and they are great sponsors and co-presenters and hosts for these sessions. So thank you very much to EY. As Iman said, we have as our guest speaker the Deputy Director General for Nuclear Department of Energy, Mr. Zizameli Mbambo. A couple of words about Wits Business School. We are very keen to host seminars like this as part of our strategy. We are looking to get into debates and to challenge people and to make sure that we are at the forefront of hosting and being part of topical debates that are of relevance to business and to business in South Africa and Africa in general. And today is no different. And as I say, I hope we have a great evening.
WBS Executive in Residence and SASL Chair, Mr. Maurice Hadebe, will help us widen the aperture somewhat by laying the foundation for why this talk is happening now. I mean, it's no prize, no prizes for the answer.
But what I want to focus is what is the National Development Plan saying. It's saying we must investigate. And it's very important that we investigate things before we implement them. So we have to investigate the implications of the nuclear energy. How much is it going to cost us? And that's the robust discussion we need to have today. How are we going to finance it? That's a very important question that we need to ask. Do we have all the institutional arrangements or regulatory framework that is actually need to undergird an initiative of this magnitude? Very important question. Safety. Gee, was what happened in Japan recently. And are we going to be able to manage that? Are we going to have all the OEMs from all over the world coming in here and then do all the work and then leave no skills, no localization, no empowerment, and no opportunities for transfer of skills? That's a question. Is it going to create jobs? Questions we need to ask. What are we going to do? We have possibilities for uranium enrichment and fuel fabrication? These are the questions that we need to debate today, and I'm glad that we've got the entire team here of the nuclear that is looking after this program. We've got the CEO who's going to give opening remarks. We've got the Chief Director Nuclear Proliferation, Ms. Elsie Munale, and we also have the specialist here, Zukile. And we also have the Acting Director, Mr. Katse Mapoto, Chief Director, Nuclear Safety. And so we're looking at you, Mr. Mapoto, when we ask the questions of safety. So we've got a whole team that is here.
Maybe let me describe for you a little bit what a nuclear build program is, because we're not talking about just the reactors, between 6 and 8 reactors. We're talking about procuring technology and capability to design, to construct, to operate, after commissioning, of course, which we will participate in, to handle the fuel in the front end and also handle the back end, the waste. We want the capability to be able to do the engineering, the upfront engineering, to do the project management, to do the construction management, to do the contract management while managing the subcontractors, because that's where the skills lies. And then to construct and operate for ourselves. You need to develop the skills. NEXA has been selected by the Department of Energy to lead a program to train up the engineers, the scientists, the financial guys that will be working in the nuclear build program, which program constitutes the beneficiation of uranium from mining, conversion, enrichment, fuel fabrication, through to the building of power stations. So we need that whole suite of skills. We have them in pockets.
In a sense, this policy was then giving a clear signal as to the government intention to expand the nuclear new build for peaceful purposes and use nuclear technology for the social benefit of our population. One of its strategic objectives of government is that through nuclear, the government wants to be self-sufficient. What does this mean? Self-sufficient means that as a country, we want to participate into the entire nuclear value chain. That there is no disagreement on government policies. There is a nuclear energy policy which stipulates that government intend to expand the nuclear new build to create the industry and participate in the entire value chain. And on the other hand, then the National Development Plan, which is the NDP, says in order for government to make a call or a final decision on procuring the nuclear power plant, we need to have done the thorough investigation. And all of those to make the case for nuclear new build. In order for a country to have a sustainable long-term baseload electricity, we needed to include nuclear as a baseload, because a country such as South Africa is endowed with the uranium reserves. So when you are expanding and you have to develop your nuclear power plants, you are actually making sure that you are the security of supply is assured, because we've got the resources in the country. To mention them, it's Russia, it's France, it's the US. We're in advanced negotiations with Canada and Japan. Then, having signed the intergovernmental agreement, which then create a framework for exchange of information with these countries, then we invited this country into a vendor parade workshops. We assembled up to 80 South African nuclear experts, which were engaging thoroughly with the proposals for these nuclear vendor countries. And in order to make sure that when government finally take a decision on the procurement, our experts have interrogated the proposals for these countries to make sure that we can get value for money, and to what extent each of them can meet South Africa's requirement. You can see that this is an integrated resource plan that I've talked about as to the contribution of nuclear relative to the renewables. Then the conclusion that the study reaches that there is indirect effect on the economy through the contribution of nuclear, because it provides a low-cost electricity, a very reliable base load.
You say a decision is imminent. Does it mean that these IGAs are ironclad? Do we have escape clauses in anything that we've agreed upon, or is this pretty much a fait accompli?
Cooperation agreement with all of these countries. There is no contract that has been signed that now binds South Africa in terms of what is put into this intergovernmental agreement. They provide the framework around which South Africa would cooperate with these countries. Nuclear is competitive compared to other baseload technologies. That means coal and gas. So there is, in our view, sufficient mechanisms which will ensure that the members of the public are engaged, they are consulted, they make their input through these mechanisms that I've just highlighted. The nuclear energy policy, you know, Amanda, that when government develop policies, they go into different levels of consultation, from a white paper to a green paper, right up to the policy. And in all those phases of the development of policy, stakeholders are involved. And once the policy has been approved, it means the policy has been widely consulted with. And there is no difference with the nuclear new build program. South Africa has got sufficient capacity in terms of the existing expertise that it will be able to undertake this program. And obviously, when we now expand it, we are preparing to make sure that we can then have sufficient capacity to deal with all of this. But it will take time.
The reality is, on a cost, when you start a capital project, you can't really stop it. So that cost that starts spiraling out of control, like what happened with the current coal stations, how do you actually contain this at a later point in time?
We as a country have already packed and said, If it crosses a particular threshold, we should then reconsider our decision. So as they're going to bid, we will be able to measure against that threshold and say, if that's the threshold, what buffer do we have?
We're one of the top countries in the world that's got abundant uranium reserves.
Remember when we were building stadium, especially when it comes to construction, we find out companies were colluding from cement to steel. And since this mega project like this, how do you going to ensure that this thing's not happening like before?
Potential that Mozambique has in natural gas, which to my untrained eye seems like an obvious solution to our energy requirements and far more effective, efficient and cost and cheaper, that's right. And just to throw in, if I may, what happened to the pebble bed reactor scheme?
There is a need, and every source has got a place to play in our policy going forward. So issues of cost can be managed. We can, and there are models in the world that today, even Nigeria, Vietnam, and others are looking towards getting nuclear as a form of energy source. So it's not scary for South Africa. And we do have mechanism to make sure that the people, as in us, me and you, when I've put the mic and I'm a consumer, don't pay the exorbitant amounts of money. It is actually, when we have modeled, is that over 30 years, the tariff is going to do something like this, and it's going to taper off. If we were a socialist country, we would even go down if we wanted to, in terms of tariff, relatively speaking, because you would have paid your asset over the 30 years, and there would be nothing else except fuel. And for nuclear, all of us know that fuel for nuclear and operating costs are very low in comparison to all the other sources, except of course the renewables. That when it comes to HTR technology, South Africa, when it comes to fuel, we are still #1 in the world. The fuel that we developed over the short period of time that we had for PBMR has been the best fuel in the world. The Chinese are advanced in terms of building the reactor itself. They are now building their second 400 megawatt reactor. But fuel-wise, they're looking to us for a potential and a possibility of partnerships. Clearly, going forward, if we do not maximize this procurement process to indigenize nuclear technology so that we can be engineers, designers, and builders and exporters of this technology, we would have lost a great opportunity.